Hello everyone and welcome to round 13 of the Candidates Tournament 2021. Today for you I have the game Alexander Grischuk against Anish Giri. And this is a very important game because today, and I'm already spoiling the result for you, but Anish Giri lost his game against Alexander Grischuk. Jan Nepomniachtchi, better known as Nepo, will fight in November in the World Championship match against Magnus Carlsen. The result is already known because Jan Nepomniachtchi is on 8.5 points and Anish Giri is on 7.5, and even if Jan would lose and Anish would win, there would be a tiebreak which Jan would win. So there is no possible way now for Nepo to still lose this tournament, and the winner is known. Without more further ado, let's have a look at the game. We have d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, and now b6. This is known as the Queen's Indian defense. We have g3, preparing to chateau the bishop to g2, bishop b7, bishop g2, and now bishop to b4 check. This is known as the Capablanca Variation of the Queen's Indian defense. Bishop to d2 and now c5. It's very clear that Anish wants to have some imbalances in the position, since of course he wants to win this game. We have bishop takes on b4, c takes on b4, and now basically both players develop their pieces. We have castles, knight to d2, d6, queen b3, and now a5. Defending the pawn on b4, and Grischuk says, I will attack this pawn once again. And Anish says, well, I will defend this pawn once again, because if takes, Anish wants to take back on b5 with the knight. We have rook f2 d1, very natural, putting the rook on the d file. Queen e7, and now a very nice maneuver by Grischuk, which is to bring the knight over to c2 to further pressurize this pawn on b4. So we have knight to e1, bishop takes on g2, king takes, the bishops get exchanged, and now we have h5. I like this very much, of course. It's logical that he goes for the imbalances. He tries to go for his own initiative, and I pretty much like this move h5. Now we have knight to c2, as I told you, further pressurizing this pawn on b4. Now, of course, this pawn is under attack, and so actually black needs to take on a3. Grischuk takes back with the b pawn in order for this rook to open itself on the half open b file. We have rook a to b8 and now e4. Very nice. Look at these knights. They're controlling like the full center, all of these squares, and the center is occupied by pawns, which I really like. In these types of positions, black kind of tries to control the center with his pieces, while white actually occupies the center with his pawns. We have e5. Now actually Anish tries to take over the center, and now simply queen to d3. Centralizing the queen as well as defending the pawn on d4. Of course, now since this trade, this knight isn't doing anything on a6, since these squares are both defended, so he decides to bring his knight back to c7. Now we have rook a b1, as I told you, just putting the rook on the half open b file. Knight e6, and now it actually looks like black is pretty much fine here. These knights are pretty much controlling the center, like he has a pawn in the center, and it's position doesn't look that bad. It's just not an easy position for black to get some sort of advantage in this position. So we have rook to b5, and now maybe in this position, this is what Alexander Grischuk said after the game in the interview, that maybe Anish could have gone for something like a knight to c7, then he would have gone back to b2, and now maybe back and there would be some repetition, but of course Anish didn't want to go for something like that. He still wanted to win the game. Maybe Grischuk would have given the draw because he also felt kind of guilty, after the game. So after this move, we simply have rook f to e8, and now h4, very natural, just making sure that the position is very solid. And here actually there is some funny line that Alexander Grischuk pointed out in the interview. After some move by Anish, let's say he'd play the move knight e7, which was not played in the game, and let's say, I do some random move by white, knight a1. There is actually a pretty cute tactic in this position. Maybe you can pause the video. Yeah, actually what you can play here is queen takes on h4, and after pawn takes back, knight to f4, attacking both the queen and the king, which would eventually win black a pawn, which I thought was kind of cute. But okay, knight e7 was not played in the game. In fact, g6 is the move by Anish. f3, knight to d7, and now more maneuvering by Anish Giri, knight d7, and I think now Alexander Grischuk plays for a very nice idea, which is to bring back his knight to f1 and afterwards to e3. So he starts with this move. We have takes on d4, the knight takes back, knight d5 attacking the queen needs to go back. Now some pieces get traded, knight takes on d4, rook takes on d4, and knight back to c6. The rook is attacked, so the rook steps back, and now queen to e6. I think it's still possible for Anish to hold this if, for example, next move he'd go back to e5 and just try and hold the position together, because really he just can't be too ambitious in this position. We have knight to e3. I think this is very nice now, because of course you can see why this plan was so good. Now he wants, of course, to jump into this square on d5, as well as actually controlling this f5 square, which could be a plan for black, and actually Anish goes for that plan, which is dubious. So he goes for this plan, and I'm not a big fan of this, going for f5, because as you will see, it's over ambitious, probably I should say. Queen to d2, pressurizing the pawn on d6. Now already f5. You know, this is marked as a blunder, and it's true. It's simply a bad move, because now we have some more trades, and white basically goes on to win 2 of black's pawns. So we have queen takes on d6, knight to c6. Now the pawn takes on f5, g takes on f5. We have a queen trade, rook takes, queen back, knight takes on f5, and as you can see, white remains with 2 healthy pawns. Knight d5, rook to d6, simply asking if black wants to trade even more. Rook e8, rook d4, knight c6, rook to d2. Now we have even more trades on the board. And well, I mean, this is completely winning. Why is this winning? Because white has 2 healthy pawns, as well as a very dangerous looking passed pawn on the d file. White's idea is to come in with his king, maybe push this pawn if he has a chance to do that. And of course he will push g4 pretty much at any time. He can push this pawn. There's nothing wrong with pushing this guy. So we have knight d5, knight d6, king f8, and white decides it's time to bring in his king. King f2, this move, knight back, because the knight was attacked, further bringing in the king, king, and now knight to d6 check, king f6, and now king to e4, and we can kind of see that white has managed to centralize his king, and now basically it will be pretty easy to win this one. Knight to d7, you know, placing the king on probably the most active square, king e7, knight b5, king f6, just shuffling around a little. Now Grischuk goes for this maneuver, placing his knight in the center, this, and now knight to e4, and only in a few moves now Anish resigns. So we have king g6, g4, b5, knight to c5, asking Anish if he wants to trade knights. And it's actually in this position that Anish resigned, but pretty much, I mean, he could have resigned earlier as well. Just to make sure, you know, I'll give you a possible line. So first of all, of course, I need to mention that if knights get traded, this pawn will queen. And so there is no need to look at this. Also, what I should mention is, just to give you a possible line, let's say black would decline the offer of a knight trade. We could get something like g5, knight back, and now king e5. Just all these pieces are placed pretty well. We can probably queen this pawn, and if not, we can queen one of these guys. And I mean, this is completely lost for. So again, I feel kind of bad for Anish, because of course I'm supporting for the neighbors, right? Because it's from the Netherlands, I'm from Belgium. So on the other hand, I feel like Nepomniachtchi probably is, I feel like Nepo has the best chance of these 8 players to beat Carlsen. Tomorrow we still have a round. I don't know what that will give. Maybe there will be quick draws. I don't know. Maybe some players will still feel like making a fight, trying to play some sharp stuff. I don't know. Maybe they will. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.